So we had the Mueller hearings today. In the Mueller hearings, we didn't get anything new about what Donald Trump did, actions by Trump and the people around him, but we did get some on the record confirmation from Robert Mueller about the obstructive goals and ambitions that Donald Trump had in his actions. Now, with regard to impeachment, after this is all said and done, after Robert Mueller is done testifying, which is still happening as of the taping of this segment, there will be people who say, now it's time for an impeachment inquiry. There will be some who will say, now it's time for the actual impeachment and removal of Donald Trump from the White House. There will be others who will say, let's not impeach. Let's not even do the inquiry. Question one is, what will Republicans think? The answer is actually, who cares? The important part is, what do Democrats think? And there is this growing problem of division within the Democratic Party on the topic of impeachment. There are those in the Democratic Party who are actually going so far as to say not only should Trump be impeached, but there is evidence for a conviction and removal on the basis of that impeachment based on what we know. There are those in the Democratic Party who say we should do an impeachment inquiry and let the inquiry take us to either impeaching or not impeaching, but let's start the inquiry right away. And then there are also Democrats who have publicly said we shouldn't get involved in this, either for political reasons or because they don't think that the evidence we've seen so far justifies an impeachment inquiry. There is a movement within the Democratic Party to do nothing when it comes to impeachment or an impeachment inquiry. The bottom line is that it's time for Democrats to cut the crap. And what I mean by that is that if the infighting about impeachment, if the debate within the Democratic Party about whether to even have an impeachment inquiry continues much longer, it's going to get Trump reelected in 2020, as are other types of Democratic infighting, potentially, as I've pointed out before. There are three options, and Democrats should figure out, like today, which one it is that they're going to get behind. They need to unite behind it, and they need to carry it out. Anything else is going to be damaging to Democrats in 2020, both for the removal of Donald Trump and also in many of their own races. Option number one, start an impeachment inquiry right now. You don't go directly to impeachment. You've got to first do the inquiry. I would support the decision to start an impeachment inquiry right now. I think there is more than enough evidence to justify the inquiry starting right away. Option two, which I would also support, would be to decide we are going to table this for now and start an impeachment inquiry in 6 months or some number of months in order to be more damaging to Donald Trump's 2020 reelection campaign. It will become a distraction. It will interfere with Donald Trump's campaigning. I would support that. Yes, as I said on Monday, I believe that it is totally reasonable at this point in time, given the politics that have been played by the other side on this issue. I think it would be completely reasonable to say, let's do the impeachment inquiry, but let's wait a little bit and time it so as to be the most damaging to Donald Trump as possible. I would support that as well. Option number three would be to decide today we are not going to pursue an impeachment inquiry. We are going to be done with it and we are going to move on, period. I don't love it in the sense that I think the evidence warrants an impeachment inquiry, and an impeachment inquiry could be damaging to the president in terms of his 2020 reelection chances. But I would be okay, and I would still sort of get behind. I would accept the decision to say we are not going to do anything with an impeachment inquiry, and we're going to focus on the 2020 election. What cannot be an option is to continue infighting for the rest of the 2020 campaign about whether or not to do an impeachment inquiry. That is a loser's game. Democrats, don't be losers. You lose all the time. We continue to lose, even though the American public is as left as it has ever been. Our elected officials continue pulling to the right. Yes, partially because of voter suppression, partially because of gerrymandering, but also because of the self-inflicted damage that Democrats do. There is a lot to gain with an impeachment inquiry, which will push the content of the Mueller report into the mainstream. There is nothing to gain from just arguing about whether or not to do the inquiry. It's been long enough. If you still don't think the inquiry is warranted based on the facts, you're not going to 6 months from now. There's nothing else that will change your mind. Please stop the self-destructive stuff and just decide and agree to stop the public disagreements about it. Mueller has testified. He's almost done with his testimony. you've got to decide on this and move forward one way or the other. Let me know what you think. I'm on Twitter at @dpakman, and the show is on Twitter at David Pakman Show. I am thrilled to tell you that today's episode is sponsored in part by Blinkist.com/Pakman. Blinkist is a really unique service for your phone, tablet, and web browser, and it is incredibly useful for people like me who love books and learning but are busy. Blinkist takes the best and most popular nonfiction books and condenses them into 15-minute audiobooks. I'm sure that if you're like me, you have a very long list of books that you've been meaning to read. You only have so many hours in the day, and that's why Blinkist is so amazing. They take the most important information, the themes, the insights from each book, and they distill it into a 15-minute audiobook that you can listen to in one sitting. I've listened to a ton of books on Blinkist. Our audience can get a 7-day free trial by going to Blinkist.com/Pakman. If you're watching on YouTube, I put a link in the description. I have listened to Blinkist books about economics, about political science, about history, about science, so many interesting things. And after the free trial, if you like it, you can continue enjoying thousands of condensed audiobooks for about $5 a month. Go to Blinkist.com/Pakman. That's BLINKIST.com/PAKMAN.